Raindrops danced across the neon-glazed pavement of Neo-Tokyo 9, each one a tiny prism refracting the endless glow of hollow ads and skyborne traffic. Mara Jensen pulled her collar higher, as if shielding herself from more than just the chill. The city thrummed around her, hovercars humming overhead, synth music bleeding from open cafes, and the constant swell of human ambition pressed into every gleaming tower. Yet beneath the electric heartbeat of this world, Mara felt only the steady thrum of a second life she had fought to forget. 8 years ago she had been celebrated. Call signs whispered over comm channels. Nightshade, Shadowhawk, had once made her name legendary across the United Earth Space Corps. Her reflexes were unmatched, her instinct preternatural. She danced through asteroid fields, under fire, outwitted pirate fleets, and earned commendations she refused to accept. But triumph had a bitter aftertaste, the aftermath of Operation Laconia, when an experimental slip drive overloaded and detonated, taking dozens of her wingmates into eternal darkness. The Corps buried the mission's failures, blamed a reactor glitch, and spun a victorious narrative for the citizens back home. But Mara knew the truth. She'd seen the Corps breach. She'd held her dying commander in her arms. She'd been the one to flip the kill switch and incinerate the research logs. She disappeared that night. Under a forged identity and with stolen credentials, Mara slipped off-world. She watched from the fringe of Isphere settlements as her name faded from fleet rosters. She buzzed through low-orbit communications hubs, transmitted ghost signals, and in due course found herself back on Earth, settling in Neo-Tokyo 9. She took a desk job at Prometheus DataWorks, where holographic spreadsheets and neural net diagnostics kept her hands busy, but her heart quiet. No missions, no friends, no reminders. Tonight, though, the city felt different. The domed sky, an artifice of drifting ozone restocking drones, flashed with irregular streaks of violet light. Traffic patterns frayed as hovercars descended to safer altitudes. Pedestrians stopped, craning necks at the unnatural aurora above. Mara paused mid-stride. Her pulse, normally so calm under pressure, skipped. She felt it in her bones. Tension, like the taut cord of a bow about to release. A beat later, the dome itself seemed to split, a rip in the atmosphere as though reality tore its own seam. A beam of silver light, cold, humming, sank through the rupture, bisecting the rainy skyline. Below it, a vessel hovered, long and serpentine, its hull a living lattice of shifting biometal that shimmered between cerulean and obsidian. No nav blips had warned of this. No human radar had registered the object. The crowd scattered. Cameras flickered. Emergency sirens screamed to life across frequencies Mara hadn't heard since her days in active duty. She ducked into an alleyway, heart hammering. Every muscle screamed to run, yet her feet remained rooted. A voice calm and resonant echoed through her neural implant. She thought she'd erased that interface years ago, but there it was again, humming in her mind. "Mara Jensen," it intoned, "we have sought you." Her breath froze. How could any craft, alien or not, know her name? No transponder could have tracked her. Not for 8 years. Panic clenched her chest. "Show yourself," she called aloud, voice echoing off wet concrete. In reply, the beam of light snapped downward again, this time searing a circle of incandescence around her. Metal groaned as the beam lifted her, off her feet. Panels of the alley wall warped and melted, but Mara saw only one thing. That serpentine ship, suspended above the city like a god. Aura fields flickered, intensifying the beam, and with a sound like the tearing of silk, she was gone, pulled into the vessel's belly. Rain and neon drifted away, replaced by a corridor bathed in bioluminescent veins of liquid light. The air smelled of ozone and sweet, unnameable orchids. As the chamber doors sealed shut behind her, Mara's training flared to life. She scanned for threats, sought an exit, cataloged every panel and vent. But in those crystalline surfaces, she saw no reflection of herself, only the echo of a life she'd tried to bury. A figure emerged, tall, willowy, clad in a flowing garment that seemed woven from moonlight. Its translucent skin glowed faintly, revealing the slow pulse of alien circulation beneath. Eyes like twin supernovae fixed on her. "You are needed," it whispered, voice like wind over dark water. "The Void Fleet falters and only you can steer us to salvation." Mara's jaw clenched. She yanked at her collar, heart thundering. "I'm nobody's pilot," she shot back. You are every star's hope." The being finished for her. The lights dimmed, and panels around her rearranged, coalescing into the outlines of a cockpit. Control interfaces, organic tendrils of living circuitry, slithered toward her. She took a step back, but her neural implants sparked, drawing her forward, sinking her mind to the craft's systems. A panel flickered to life with her old call sign, Nightshade. Mara stared, chest tightening. 8 years. 8 years of shadows and anonymity. Yet here it was, calling her back. The corridor lights pulsed in tempo with her racing heartbeat. And, in that moment, she realized hiding had never been enough. The past had found her, and the universe would not let her slip away again. The corridor's bioluminescent veins pulsed with a gentle rhythm, as if the ship itself were breathing. Mara's boots clicked against the smooth, living floor as she was escorted down a widening passage. The walls shimmered between deep violet and molten silver, alive with currents of energy that tickled her skin. Every panel, every seam, seemed organic, like the veins in a leaf or the ridges on a shell, yet fused seamlessly to biomechanical components she could neither name nor comprehend. Her mind raced. She tried to recall any fragment of xenolinguistics, any scattered memory of first contact protocols. But her training in the Corps had never prepared her for this. No human technology had ever felt so sentient. Ahead of her strode the Willone, her interlocutor from the chamber, tall and graceful. Its garment, a flowing sheath of phosphorescent fibers, trailed behind like liquid moonlight. As they walked, the Willowan's head swiveled, scanning unseen readouts in the air. It spoke again, its voice a cascade of harmonics that resonated deep in her chest. "We have brought you here, Mara Jensen, because only you possess the harmonics required to interface with our void strain vessels." "Void strain?" Mara's voice cracked. She forced herself to keep pace. "I don't know what that is." "I'm not even—" "You are every pilot who ever was and ever will be," the Willan interrupted gently. "Our ships are grown, not built. They sing in frequencies that no other mind can decode. Your neural signature resonates perfectly." Mara's heart thundered. They'd scanned her, delved into her neural implant. She had spent years tearing every backdoor from her ghost identity. Yet these beings had peeled back every layer in seconds. The passage opened into a cavernous chamber. Its far walls arched like the ribcage of some gargantuan leviathan. Dozens of cockpits, each an open flower of living metal and biocrystal, radiated outward from a central nexus. Some lay dormant, others glowed with life, their consoles humming in alien cadences. Pilot seats molded around human shapes. Cockpit overlays flickered through a spectrum of undecipherable symbols, and slender conduits pulsed, waiting for a mind to occupy them. Mara froze in the doorway. Images of her past surged. The rush of launch, the crackle of comm traffic, the smell of ozone in the vacuum. She wanted to run, to scream, to rip the neural jack from her skull, but an invisible tether held her fast. The Willone drifted beside her and extended a hand. "Your ship awaits." Steel braided through her resolve. "I'm not your soldier," the Willone inclined its head. "We do not seek conquest, we seek survival. Our home, Othara, lies at the edge of collapse. The Zethra rebellion fractured our galaxy. Our void strain vessels, once our shield, are now our last hope. But they are wilting, slowly dying without a pilot who can guide their living minds." Mara's breath caught. Why me? Why a human? A series of holographic projections bloomed around them. Star maps, fleet dispositions, flickering silhouettes of void-strain hulls besieged by jagged black vortexes. Centuries ago, the Willan said, our scientists discovered a resonance in the human brain, an echo of the void-strain sentience. Our earliest emissaries sought pilots among your people, but the knowledge was lost. You, Mara Jensen, reclaimed that echo. The corridor lights pulsed higher, and a soft chime resonated in her skull, an involuntary handshake between mind and machine. Her vision shimmered. Data scrolled across her eyelids in glyphs and waveforms. She felt comprehension bloom. Strange, yet exhilarating. The void-strain ships were alive, their hulls grown from symbiotic bioalloys, and each pilot bond was a duet of consciousness. No, she whispered, stumbling. I can't. The Willan's large, opalescent eyes softened. You will not be alone. We will guide you. Trust in your instincts. Before she could protest, the living floor beneath her rippled, carrying her toward one of the cockpits. The seat rose to meet her, curving around her spine. Tendrils, soft, silken filaments reached out, fastening gently to the base of her skull and the nape of her neck. Panic surged, but then the filaments glowed, and a warmth spread through her temples, coaxing curiosity from fear. A hush fell over the chamber as the other cockpits dimmed, silent witnesses. The void-strain vessel pulse thrummed like a heartbeat. On the forward display, a viewport opened onto the black expanse of space, countless stars reflected in her widened eyes. Mara Jensen, a new voice whispered in her mind, neither alien nor human, but something between. I am the void-strain vessel Elysium. I have waited 8 cycles for our bond to be restored. I'm no pilot, she argued, but the voice carried no malice, only longing. You and I are one, it affirmed. Let us fly. Her hands hovered above the organic controls, feeling the subtle vibrations beneath her fingertips. Memories of stick and throttle fell away. These interfaces responded to thought, emotion, intent. A single impulse in the ship would heed her, command. She closed her eyes. The vessel's pulse synced with her heartbeat. Images of distant systems, of burning star fields and shattered fleets cascaded through her mind. The Zethra blockade forming across the Alderis corridor. Refugee convoys stranded without escort. The last ember of hope in the far-flung colonies. She thought of her old crew. Lost, betrayed, buried beneath bureaucratic lies. A surge of purpose ignited in her chest. Mara opened her eyes. The viewport expanded, the stars rushing toward her. She inhaled, steeled herself, and whispered, "Let's fly." Behind her, the Willone bowed its head in relief. Around them, the chamber lights brightened, welcoming the rebirth of a pilot and her ship. In that moment, as the vessel hummed, its greeting and the stare of stars beckoned beyond, Mara Jensen realized she was no longer hiding. She was home. Mara's first taste of battle in the living heart of Elysium was nothing like the simulations she'd flown in the core. There was no cloying soundtrack of alarms or blinking red lights. Instead, the ship's hull pulsed in a low thrum, like a heartbeat racing under duress. Every maneuver felt organic. When she willed a barrel roll, tendrils of bioalloy rippled along the wings, reshaping the craft's profile. When she dove toward an asteroid field to evade pursuing fighters, the hull flexed, absorbing impacts with a sickening series of cracks and murmurs. They came out of hyperspace in a drifting debris belt, remnants of a ruined planet, orbiting a dying sun. Through Elysium's viewport, Mara could see shattered domes and fractured cities the size of continents, now tumbleweeds of rock. Zethra pickets patrol this sector, the vessel murmured in her mind. Their blockade chokes the Alderis corridor. We must break through or hundreds of civilian transports will starve in the drift. Her fingers fluttered across the crystalline console, sending a silent command. The engines responded with a roaring crescendo that rattled her bones. Ahead, 8 sleek Zethra corvettes materialized on her HUD, their black hulls jagged with spines of obsidian metal. Target the lead ship's dorsal stabilizer, a calm voice suggested in her ear. It was the Willone advisor, transmitted through her implant. Disable it, and their formation will splinter. Mara hesitated. No human pilot would dissect an enemy formation mid-flight, but Elysium's mind saw connections, resonances in the void. "On your mark," she whispered. "Now." Elysium veered into a half-loop, drawing the corvettes into pursuit. Mara felt the ship smile as it dove through the debris, using shattered spires of moonstone as cover. When the moment came, she ripped back on the thought controls. A pulse of living metal tore from the wing, lancing the dorsal fin of the flagship with a beam of white-hot plasma that seared through crystalline plating. The corvettes scattered, tumbling into one another. Elysium's hull quivered with exultation. Mara seized the chance, ramming through the gap and launching a series of biocrystal torpedoes that blossomed into concussive blooms of energy. The flagship disintegrated in a silent supernova. She banked, away panting, adrenaline and bioluminescent flux coursing through her veins. 6 remaining corvettes hesitated, long enough for Elysium to slip past the blockade and race toward the convoy. Beyond the belts of shattered rock, she found the transports, hundreds of battered civilian vessels huddled in a tight cluster, systems failing, life supports flickering. Without hesitation, Mara guided Elysium into the midst of them. Organic conduits unfurled like protective tendrils, enveloping the transports in a shimmering shield that repelled stray fire and stabilized tumbling orbits. Inside, terrified refugees stared through cracked viewports. Children clung to ghostly dolls, elders whispered prayers to gods extinct. Mara felt a pang reminiscent of her own lost wingmates, people caught in a war they never chose. "Dock with the largest transport," Elysium prompted. "Share power and life support." Mara aligned the docking clamps with uncanny precision. The walls between vessels melted away in a wash of living metal. Warmth and breathable air rushed through the corridors. Refugees stumbled into safety as medical biogels took shape in vector arrays, knitting flesh and sealing fractures. Mara watched infants' tears turn to smiles as they felt their fear ebb in Elysium's nurturing glow. All at once, a warning pulse. Massive capital ships. At the horizon, the core of the Zethra warfleet bristling with weapons. The blockade was a lure. The real trap lay waiting beyond. "Can we outrun them?" she asked, heart sinking. "Not without overt combat," Elysium replied. "But we can't leave these souls to die." Mara gritted her teeth. "Then we fight." What followed was an orchestration of living metal and human instinct. Elysium's hull expanded into a cathedral of obsidian spires, energy conduits arcing between them like starlit veils. Mara wove through enemy fire with ghost-like grace, each evasion guided by the ship's empathic whispers. When she unleashed the vessel's core resonance, a sustained pulse that fractured nearby masses of antimatter, the shockwave cleared a path through the Zethra line, sending their cruisers reeling. Yet victory tasted hollow. As the last cruiser drifted off, Mara's HUD flickered with distress calls. 2 transports had detached prematurely and were on collision courses with a collapsing planetoid. 0 seconds to correct. Mara's mind snapped. "Elysium, we're too slow." "Trust me," the ship's voice soothed. "We are one." She throttled forward, and time seemed to dilate. The hull's living fibers glowed incandescent. In an almost unbearable swell of white light, the vessel bent space-time around itself and the transports, pulling them free of destruction's path. When the radiance faded, the refugees tumbled to safety, and the planetoid's final echo faded in the void. Silence followed. Mara hovered in Elysium's cockpit, drenched in sweat and bioluminescent afterglow. Through the viewport, the convoy drifted safely away, guided by other void-strain escorts that had slipped through the weakened blockade. Her hands shook. "I did it." Elysium's pulse lulled to a gentle rhythm. "You are the pilot I remembered," it whispered. "Our bond grows stronger." Mara exhaled, and for the first time since Operation Laconia, her grief found purpose. The scars of her past, guilt, loss, fear, fused with a new resolve. To defend the innocent on behalf of 2 civilizations. But as the shadows of distant warships receded, a cold certainty settled in her bones. This was only the beginning. The Zethra would not surrender easily, and Elysium's fate, like her own, remained suspended in the unforgiving void. In the dim glow of the cockpit, Mara, Jensen straightened. The galaxy's heartbeat pulsed beneath her palms. Ahead lay the battle for its soul. The battle-scarred expanse of the Alderus corridor lay before them like a wounded beast. Smoldering wrecks of void-strain escorts drifting among fractured asteroids, and the Zethra flagship, Thanatos, looming at the heart of the ruined formation. Its ebony hull bristled with weapon arrays flaring in the dim light of a nearby neutron star. This was the Crucible, the very place where the fate of two civilizations would be decided. Mara Jensen steadied herself in Elysium's living cockpit. The ship's bioluminescent veins pulsed urgently, matching the rapid beat of her heart. Data glyphs swirled in her vision, overlaying ship positions, power levels, and countless variables. The Willowan advisor's voice reverberated in her mind. Their core reactor is unstable. A single direct strike could trigger a chain reaction, obliterate the flagship and all vessels within a 100-kilometer radius. She swallowed. The collateral risk was enormous. "Is there another way?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. Elysium's voice coursed through her neurons, soothing yet insistent. "We can disable their weapons matrix without a full core breach, if you can breach their forward shield lattice." Mara studied the symbol patterns dancing on her HUD. Arcs of energy, ebbing and pulsing in a precise sequence. She recognized the signature, a resonance pattern akin to a dead man's switch built into the void strain design, repurposed by the Zethra to lock down their systems. It would take a finesse no human-trained pilot had ever attempted. She flexed her fingers over the organic controls. "Let's dance." With a silent flick of her will, Elysium dove toward Thanatos, weaving through the debris. The flagship's point defense turrets erupted in spirals of pulsefire, each beam sizzling through Elysium's hull filaments like lightning through water. Mara held her breath, guiding tendrils of living metal to absorb and reroute the energy, keeping damage to a minimum. "Pattern on the right wing incoming," the Willan warned. "Evasive now." Mara spun the ship in a graceful corkscrew. At her command, the wing reshaped itself into a blade-like prong that sliced through incoming fire. She vaulted upward, engines flaring, and let the momentum carry her in close. Through the viewport, she saw the lattice of shimmering energy, the shield matrix, crisscrossing the Thanatos hull. Lock sequence in 3, 2, 1. Elysium counted down in her mind. She reached out with a thought, melding her neural signature with the alien grid. The lattice's hum slowed, flickering. Warning klaxons sounded in her skull. The Zethra had detected the hack. Turrets swiveled, targeting her cockpit like vultures focusing on prey. "Almost there," she murmured, sweat beating at her temples. The grid's glow dimmed segment by segment until the shield collapsed around a single quadrant. "Now!" Elysium thundered with exhilaration. Mara plunged through the breach, driving a focused beam of pure biocrystal fire into the reactor housing. The impact jarred the ship, compressing her chest against the seat. Outside, the flagship convulsed as the reactor core's containment fields flickered. Inside her mind, Elysium and the Willan transmitted a warning. "Eject. Divergence imminent." Mara clenched her fists. Not yet. She willed every ounce of her bond with the ship toward one final task, stabilizing the core long enough to neutralize the flagship without a catastrophic explosion. A roar like a dying star erupted as the Thanatos core collapsed inward, then, miraculously, held. The flagship shuddered, its weapons arrays died in a cascade of sparks, and its navigation thrusters spun to drift. The reactor, instead of breaching, sank into a controlled stasis, siphoning excess energy into the void. Silence. Elysium's voice was gentle now, almost tender. "You have saved them." Mara exhaled, the tension draining. Through the viewport, she watched as the Zethra vessels limped away, leaderless and disarmed. The surviving transports, Voidstrain and human alike, gathered around the disabled flagship, their crews emerging to offer aid. Flares of peace signals spiraled upward, knitting a fragile truce among former enemies. Tears blurred Mara's vision. The ghosts of Operation Laconia, the lives she'd abandoned, the guilt she'd carried, all of it dissolved in the triumph of life over death, unity over division. A transmission crackled in her ear, human voices from the distant edge of the Alderis corridor. Nightshade, this is Admiral Cato of the New Earth Fleet. We read you. Identify yourself. Mara tapped her implant, flicking the comm channel. Oh, and Admiral, I'm Captain Mara Jensen, piloting the Voidstrain vessel Elysium. We, together, ended the blockade. A pause, then Cato's voice. Understood. We're initiating rescue operations. Thank you, Captain. Mara leaned forward, placing a hand on the living surface of the console. Elysium's heartbeat thrummed under her palm. It's not over, she said softly, more to herself than to the ship. We have new work ahead, rebuilding trust, forging alliances, healing the scars of war. Together, Elysium agreed. Above them, the neutron star flared one last time, bathing the corridor in white-hot light. In that radiance, Mara saw the endless possibilities of tomorrow, humans and aliens standing side by side, Voidstrain ships grown in harmony rather than war, the promise of exploration untainted by fear. She straightened in her seat, resolve crystallizing in her chest. Set course for the Othara Council, she commanded. It's time we negotiated peace from the heart of our own make. As the living vessel pivoted toward the stars, Mara Jensen closed her eyes and allowed herself a single, real smile. The pilot she'd tried to bury had returned, not as a soldier of one world, but as a bridge between worlds. And for the first time in 8 years, she was exactly where she belonged,